Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Hope you guys are having a chill day. In this video, I'm going to be covering the secret network. If you guys follow my work, you guys know that within the last couple months, I've gotten incredibly bullish on privacy-oriented layer ones. And out of all the ones that I've taken a look at, secret network is in my top 3. In this video, I'll give you guys a brief introduction, followed by an overview of all the DeFi protocols that have launched. Next, we'll cover NFTs and why I think launching NFT projects on secret is going to lead to a lot of innovation. And lastly, I'll cover what I'm doing with my personal portfolio and how I plan to take advantage of the explosive growth on the network. But before we dive into the video, I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm in the process of reformatting my newsletter. So every 2 weeks, on Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to be sending you guys DeFi updates. But in addition to the DeFi updates that I've been sending you guys, I'm going to start including GameFi and NFT projects. So you'll get that newsletter on Saturdays every 2 weeks. And on Sundays, I'll give you guys the general news. I'll cover themes and narratives that I think are going to gain traction in the coming months to years. And for the most part, I would say about 95% of the newsletter is completely free. There's a small segment that is behind a paywall, and it's usually projects and gems that I'm looking into that I haven't made a commitment to buying yet. So it's a way for you guys to get inside my head before I publish more public content. If you guys are interested in subscribing to this mostly free newsletter, then make sure to click the newsletter link in the description below and enter your email address. Now that I'm done shilling my newsletter, let's go ahead and dive into this video. Alright, let's get this video started. A couple weeks ago, I published this video on Aurora, an EVM compatible chain. And in that video, I talked about how layer ones get seeded with capital and the various stages that they grow through before developers start building dApps on top of them. And so rather going over this in this video, I highly recommend that you guys check out this video and go over the first segment. Everything is time-stamped if you guys want to just strictly watch this portion of the video. And for the secret network, we're right here in this stage. And what's going to catalyze the growth of the network is this ecosystem fund that was recently launched. And it's not some small-time jabroni investors that are pouring money into the secret ecosystem. You have Defiance Capital, Alameda Research, Coin Fund, Hashkey, and I anticipate that there's going to be more later on. And the secret team is dubbing this growth initiative Shockwave. And this capital is going to be deployed to expand Secret's network application layer, including DeFi NFTs, its network infrastructure, and tooling. So essentially what you're looking at is a few dApps that are going to be launched. And typically, it always tends to be DeFi protocols initially, because you need basic functions like lending, borrowing, trading, before other dApps can be built. And also, you want to make sure that the network is able to handle the volume. So focusing on infrastructure is super important in this setting. And lastly, you want to make sure that the developers have all the tools that they need to build and innovate. And in addition to that, they also want to make sure that the ecosystem rapidly expands its user base. And so my guess is that this pool of capital is probably going to be used for liquidity mining incentives and maybe even other incentives like airdrops that give people a financial incentive to interact with the network. Some people think this is a waste, but personally, I think it's no different from marketing. When you market, it's not like you're going to have a 100% conversion rate, but at least more people will learn about your product or platform, and you'll end up getting more conversions that way versus having no marketing at all. And I think the same applies to liquidity mining incentives. Sure, you might have some opportunistic and transient users that come on, farm, take advantage of the incentives and then leave. But out of that lot, you're definitely going to have a respectable amount of people, users, devs that end up staying on the network long term. And you're already starting to see a little bit of traction with NFTs, for example. Quentin Tarantino launched his NFT and it sold for over $1.1 million. And part of the reason why Quentin ended up minting on the secret network was because of the network's privacy enhancing features. We'll talk more about that in a later segment of the video. And back in November, they started supporting IBC, which in simple terms means that Secret now can be sent to any IBC compatible chain without having to use a bridge. And so as a result, soon afterwards, they got listed on Osmosis. And if you guys haven't used Osmosis yet, I strongly recommend that you guys do. Check out one of the past videos I published where I detail my strategy on how I'm getting exposure to the Cosmos network and earning passive income at the same time. If you're interested in watching that video and also watching a video on how to set up your Kepler wallet, I'll include both links in the description below. And the reason I wanted to highlight this is because this means capital flow into Secret Network isn't going to be impeded by the need for bridges. So users can use the Kepler wallet on all IBC supported chains. So as they make it a lot easier for users to bring their Ethereum and Bitcoin into the Cosmos network and all of the IBC supported chains, I'm confident that some of that capital will end up on the Secret network. And the awesome thing about everybody that's building within the Cosmos network using the Tendermint SDK is that you have a lot of composability and synergy between the sovereign chains. So for example, you have Terra Network that mints UST, and now all IBC supported DEXs are able to create UST pairs on their DEXs so people can sell in and out of that pair. So for example, we have Terra Network that's become super popular for UST. With IBC enabled, they're able to send that UST to all of the DEXs, and some of the DEXs like Osmosis have already started to support it. And prior to that, there wasn't a really good or easy way for them to support a USD-based pair. So Terra with UST has completely resolved that problem for them. In the example that I outlined, you can see the benefits of being able to send assets cross-chain. And I bet you within the next couple of years, we're going to see smart contract mediated cross-chain interactions. So instead of having that zero-sum game as many EVM chains do, these sovereign chains within the Cosmos network work synergistically with one another, and with every new service, with every new chain, the collective benefits as more services and products are brought to the market. And within the next couple of years, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a lot of these projects that are building using the Cosmos Tendermint SDK enter the top 80 to 50 in market cap. That has a lot to do with why I'm super bullish on the Secret network, because unlike other privacy layer ones, they have this huge advantage of building within the Cosmos network. Now, before we shift the conversation over to talking about DeFi protocols, let's quickly backtrack and let me give you guys an introduction to Secret Network. They originally launched back in 2017. They marketed themselves as a second layer private computation solution to Ethereum. And in February of 2020, they settled with the SEC and paid a $500,000 fine after raising $45 million in a 2017 ICO. Afterwards, they rebranded it to Secret and shifted their focus to being a layer 1 privacy oriented chain, and they did this by building using the Cosmos SDK. Unlike Monero and Zcash, which are great for sending private transactions, Secret actually allows you to anonymize smart contract interactions. And all of that equates to private balances, private transactions, private DeFi interactions, private NFT collections, and many more technological solutions that allow users to keep full control over their on-chain data, which is a sharp contrast to what you're getting on Ethereum, for example, because there everything is public. This includes your NFT collection, the balances that you have, and all of the transactions you've conducted using your wallet. And in hopes of staying compliant with regulators, they have viewing keys. So by default, your balance is private, but if you create a viewing key, you can actually give that key to another party who can also see your balances and transactions. This way, it remains private to everybody else, but accessible to, let's say, a regulator that's looking into your account. And so I know I said that it's all private by default, but their secret token, SCRT, is public. It's used to pay for fees, stake, and vote on governance proposals. But once it's wrapped to S-Secret, that's when your transactions are private. So aside from the secret token, everything else is private by default. Now, in terms of DeFi related activity, you can see that the total value locked is very small compared to some of the major chains. You can see that Secret here sits at number 35 with a total value locked of 94.3 million, which in my opinion is a good sign, especially given that I think that they're set to have explosive growth in the coming quarters. And so what I'm going to be doing is casually watching DeFi Llama. This way, if a new DeFi protocol launches with its respective token, I'll likely get a very early entry. Now, given that a lot of market participants out there are risk adverse at the moment, they think there's the potential that the market could crater, you're going to have a little bit more time to make pivots. And so if you're like me and you think we're in reaccumulation and there's a good possibility that the market returns to risk on, I would take this opportunity opportunity to begin researching the various DeFi protocols and projects launching on Secret. Next up, we have SecretSwap. This was the first automated market maker launched on Secret. And if you end up using it today and you provide liquidity to any one of these pools, you guys can earn pretty decent yields here. The problem is that a lot of the pools are paired with CeFi, its native token. But you do have other pools like Secret BNB, Secret Rune that allow you to earn pretty respectable yields. Now the TVL isn't that high, so if we see an influx of liquidity providers, these yields can get diluted pretty quickly. But my guess is that we could potentially see users speculate on the price of CeFi. And in that setting, assuming that the total value lock doesn't go up too fast, you're likely to see the yields rise. And since we have bridges from BSC, they also support BSC assets here, along with other IBC enabled assets. And if you see an S in front of it, again, that means that if you conduct that transaction, it's going to remain anonymous. Next up, we have Sienna Swap. This is one of the newer automated market makers. Currently, you can do swaps and you can earn liquidity mining incentives for providing liquidity. And again, because most market participants are risk off, I think some of these yields might last a little bit longer than they normally would. So I would suggest checking out some of these pools with the liquidity that they have now. Once market participants start becoming more active, you're going to see these yields get diluted very quickly. In addition to swaps, in the future, they're also going to create a lending market, which means that you're going to be able to lend your Secret and other assets to earn yield on them. And I suspect they're going to go ahead and boost the yields with the Sienna token. Moving along, we have BTN Group next. This project is still looking for funding. They're looking to get a grant from the foundation. And I think with the ecosystem launch, there's a good possibility that they end up getting this grant ahead of schedule. On a side note, I wonder who ended up choosing this name here for their coin. I don't know, the people who are reviewing the grant applications might not take them seriously with this type of name. But anyhow, they're going to build a tap that distributes Bitcoin. It'll have a yield optimizer, profit distributor. Next up, we have BTN Group. This protocol is launching their project both on the Secret network and Near. And their service suite includes address alias, block locker, a swap, password manager, pools, and here you have yield optimizers that basically auto compound your yield that you earn on Secret Swap. And the thing about a lot of these tokens on the Secret network, like the BUT token, is that in addition to not being listed on DeFi Llama, they're also not listed here on Dex Screener, which is pretty quick to list tokens. I would be careful, but because we're early, if we see a surge in users, there's a chance that we can make some pretty good gains by purchasing BUT tokens or other tokens of DEXs and yield aggregators. A lot of these tokens are hyperinflationary during the early days, so it's probably a good idea to de-risk the first chance that you get. So if you have any interest in getting involved in these DeFi protocols or getting exposure to these DeFi tokens, one way you can wrap your tokens and start interacting with the protocols is by coming over here to wrap SCRT.network and wrapping your token. This is very similar to, for example, wrapping your token and interacting with it on Ethereum, except in this case, you're wrapping your token to interact on the Secret network. So if you're farming the Osmo/Secret pool like I am, and you're earning Osmo tokens, you can actually come here, connect with your Kepler wallet, wrap your Osmo tokens, and take S-Osmo to one of the DEXs I introduced to you guys today, and swap it for your target asset. All right, to wrap the video, I'm going to give you guys a summary of all the key points that I made, and add a few more that I didn't include in the previous segments of my video. Cosmos is definitely getting a lot of attention. Now, if my broader market outlook is validated and we haven't topped, and we're in fact going higher in the coming months, it's highly probable that the Cosmos ecosystem is going to be the epicenter of the market's attention. Unlike other chains that we've seen get bootstrapped with users, liquidity, and capital, Cosmos is more like a layer 0 than a layer 1. And all of these other chains are basically layer 1s that are built on top of the Cosmos infrastructure. By that, I mean the Tendermint SDK. And in past videos, I've stated that providing liquidity on Osmosis is like providing liquidity on PancakeSwap before it blew up. And so if you're aligned with my broader market view and the view that Cosmos is going to be the epicenter of a lot of the activity when the market returns to risk on, then I strongly recommend that you watch my past videos that I've done on Osmosis, you can watch them by clicking the link in the description below. And so if Cosmos is seeing a huge amounts of liquidity pour into its ecosystem, and the biggest layer 1 DEX at the moment is Osmosis, and Osmosis has some pretty deep pools for the secret token. And since Osmos is basically like the index token for the entire ecosystem, provided that Osmo goes up in price, since its most liquid pair is here with the Osmo token, there's a very good chance that it trends up with Osmo. And on top of that, when people are exploring or looking for opportunities within the Cosmos ecosystem, since the secret token is available to trade on Osmosis, it's going to be relatively easy for people to get exposure to the token. And don't forget, on top of all of that, Secret has an ecosystem fund, and I'm confident a portion of the ecosystem fund is going to be used to incentivize users to explore the Secret DeFi ecosystem. And typically this is done with liquidity mining incentives. And like I stated earlier in my video, protocol that I'm looking most forward to is Shade Protocol. I'm confident that they're working very closely with the Secret Foundation. And given the nature of a lot of these projects building within the Cosmos ecosystem, I'm confident that a large portion of the Foundation's funds, Shade Protocols funds, are going to be given back to the community via airdrops and also through initiatives that encourage people and incentivize people to interact with the protocols that are built on top of Secret. And one thing that people often misinterpret or assume is that any transaction that you do with the Secret token is anonymous. That's inaccurate. You first have to wrap it or convert it to SCRT. But unlike the token, all the smart contract transactions are anonymous by default. But you do reserve the option to giving individuals or entities access to your transaction log. So this is great because it keeps them compliant, and at the same time, user transactions can remain anonymous. So the public can't see my transactions, but let's say I was doing my taxes and the government made a request, I could easily give them access to my transaction log. Now, we don't have dApps or projects live. Poor Bear, founder of Secret Network, in an interview stated that he can't disclose the name of the party or the project that's working on this, but there's an Ethereum project that's working on routing transactions through Secret to anonymize them, which is sort of ironic because when Secret Network had their ICO on Ethereum, that's exactly what they set out to do. They were basically going to be a layer 2 solution to help anonymize transactions on Ethereum. And now they've become their own layer 1 chain, and you have Ethereum devs working on anonymizing Ethereum transactions through the Secret Network. Now, if they're successful, or if any project is successful in that endeavor, I promise you we're going to see a lot more of that. And I would imagine that most projects out there that were aiming to do this, they're more likely to go through Secret Network than some other privacy-oriented chain, because Secret could act as a doorway to the entire Cosmos ecosystem. Now, with NFTs being hyped up and having a few manias over the last year, and we've seen some of that enthusiasm for NFTs spill over to Secret Network, and I think that was sparked partly by Quentin Tarantino launching his collection. But the difference between Secret NFTs and NFTs on other chains is that with Secret NFTs, you're able to hide ownership of scarce items, you're able to privatize the metadata, and lastly, you're able to control access to connected content. This means if you show off that you own a certain NFT on a social media platform, unless you give somebody permission, no one's going to know which address holds that particular NFT. And the last two properties that I mentioned are super interesting and intriguing. And ultimately, I think they're going to end up attracting a lot of interesting projects. Because with those last two properties I mentioned, you can build a game that has items with hidden abilities or art embedded with secret links. And artists or marketplaces are going to be able to customize access to their products, which is going to make it a lot easier, for example, to host exclusive events, and probably will be used a lot by the adult entertainment industry. This $400 million ecosystem fund came from Defiance Capital, Alameda Research, Coin Fund, Hashkey, and many more investors. Anytime you see this amount of capital coming into an ecosystem, you can expect the number of dApps and platforms to explode. And so it should be no surprise that the number of cumulative unique addresses after the ecosystem fund went exponential. And if you look at metrics across the board, whether it's daily transactions or gas used per day, the trend is pretty obvious. And given that I haven't seen a lot of social media influencers say much about the Secret Network, indicates to me that we're still relatively early to this opportunity. And lastly, I think regulations will ultimately encourage people to take privacy more seriously. Personally, I think it's inevitable that the government goes after DeFi protocols that are a risk to the banking system because they're interested in keeping the capital in the legacy system. The banking industry has very strong lobbying power. And so when they go after some of these protocols, one strategy that they could use is to blacklist addresses that interact with protocols that they believe not to be compliant from a regulatory standpoint. And so if you have a network where all the transactions are anonymized, it'll be more difficult for the governments to enforce the regulations. Now, this doesn't mean that Secret is going to moon right after Biden issues his executive order, but I think at a minimum, it's setting the stage for people and the crypto industry as a whole to look more closely and seriously at privacy-oriented chain. Now, that pretty much wraps up the video. If you guys are interested in getting exposure to Secret, personally, what I've done is I've bought some Secret, some Osmos. I've provided liquidity to this pool here. I'm earning 83.14%. I could use some of that yield to dollar cost average into Secret. And I've actually done that a little bit, and I've used that Secret that I've accumulated, and I've staked a very small portion of my Secret tokens with one of the validators. And the reason I decided to do this was because I'm pretty confident as more dApps launch on the Secret network, users who have a Secret stake are going to be eligible for airdrops. And in fact, that's exactly what Shade Protocol is doing. They already took the snapshot back in December, so you're not going to be eligible for that if you end up staking today. But like I mentioned earlier in my video, they did get $400 million for their ecosystem fund. We've seen addresses explode, so I think it's just a matter of time before we see more dApps, more protocols deployed on the Secret network. And so with that last bit of alpha, I hope you guys enjoyed today's content. If you did, do me a huge favor, give me a like, throw a comment in the comment section below, and definitely check out my Discord channel by clicking the link in the description below. We have a lot of chads in here that give regular alpha. In fact, there's been many times where people share tokens and projects that have gone up by a factor of 10. Again, if you want to join the Discord, just click the link in the description below. It's free to join, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot of value out of it. With that, this is CryptoOneStop signing out. I'll talk to you folks next time.